Herbidacious!
Hello, welcome to Get Gardening. I'm Thordis
And I'm Ian Roof.
and today we're taking a stroll along an area of East Ruston Old Vicarage where there are tons of herbs, which is obviously one of the things people love to grow. They look great, they smell great, you can eat them.
And they're fantastic, yeah, and they're great for the bees, great for the butterflies, and it fits in really well with this whole area by the fruit cage as well. We've got all the fruit production inside, and we wanted to make sure that this section outside not only had step over apples in it, but also had lots of edible and interesting plants in. It's a good sunny spot. And things seem to grow really well. I mean, we've got a number of things that are growing down here already. We've got oregano, also known as marjoram, which is doing really well, a great herb for many uses. It's been flowering for months now as well, and it's in a really sunny border at the front edge, growing to about 45 centimetres, 18 inches in height. It's excellent ground cover, and the insects absolutely adore it. And we've got some rosemary, which is growing really well as well. And luckily at the moment, we've not succumbed to the rosemary beetle. And you'll know if you've got rosemary beetle because all the shoots will be cut off level and square where the beetles have been in and they've gnawed them all back. But the rosemary's doing really well. This is Miss Jessop's upright. Not only does it smell great, it's evergreen, and it's got great long season of flowering as well, once again for the insects.
The thing about herbs is we don't live in the Mediterranean, and loads of these plants thrive in those Mediterranean countries. And I know when I was new to gardening, my plants would be in soil that wasn't free draining enough, they were in spots that weren't sunny enough, and particularly my thymes would get crowded out. So there are a few things to watch out for if you want your herbs to do well.
Yeah, I think that key is good drainage. That's really important, and also a soil which isn't too rich. Now the soil here at East Ruston is particularly good, but here the herbs seem to do well. But if you find at home that your herbs are putting on too much growth and growing quite softly, then it probably means you're giving them too much nourishment. They really are things that want to be grown, in my experience, it's quite hard. So where a lot of plants we say give them lots of water and lots of feed, well with most herbs, which as you say are Mediterranean, that's not the case. We want to treat them mean and keep them keen, and you'll get much better results. And we've got a nice patch of thyme down here which we'll probably go and look at actually, because thyme does get very easily overshadowed by other things. But here on this corner of the border, it's doing exceptionally well, and there's about 5 plants in here which came from a local herb supply, which I know you go to as well, not far from us, which is brilliant. Yeah. I mean, really are. And the thing is that if we had other things round here, then this thyme would probably die out. It hates shade, it hates competition. But here it's just got a small apple tree with it and a few verbascum that have seeded in, but it's just doing great. And we've done very little with it up until now, but all we will do is if it starts to get a little bit out of hand, we'll just run a pair of shears over it and just keep it slightly lower to the ground. But I think, you know, with herbs anywhere, you should be pruning them all the time, and that pruning will be you picking them to use them in the kitchen.
And that's an easy way of keeping on top of them, but it is easy for them to get out of hand. I've got a rosemary at home that gets bigger and bigger, and the bigger it gets, the bigger a job it is to prune it, so you put it off. Is there a time when you shouldn't be pruning your herbs for fear of them having a bit of winter damage? Or
yeah, I
like
think
that?
Definitely leave all your herbs until late spring, until you sort of really see things starting to happen. All these Mediterranean type plants they will resent being pruned sort of late autumn time, when you know you want to be making the garden tidy, but that's when they'll be at their sort of most vulnerable. But really with your regular sort of pinching out to use in the kitchen, you shouldn't be having to do too much major pruning. And unfortunately things like rosemary and things like lavenders, they don't always respond well to being cut hard back into old wood. So if you have got plants which have been there for say 3, maybe 4 years, are getting a bit big and out of control, it might just be you've got to bite the bullet, grub them out and plant some fresh ones.
Though you could always take cuttings and look elsewhere for a lavender cutting video where you can find out how to make new plants elsewhere on this channel with Alan. The other great thing, I mean, you mentioned there are herb nurseries, and I know that's kind of squirreled away in the border here. There are things like tangerine sage. There are so many exciting herbs. It doesn't just have to be a bog standard rosemary, you know, a bog standard lavender or whatever. There are loads of different ones.
There are so many. I mean, I think they're probably, you know, we've got probably 15 different types of thyme growing around these borders, but that's just a mere tip of the iceberg as to what's available. And we've got a few different mints in pots as well, and there's a huge range of mints as well. But yeah, we've got some pineapple sage over here, and we've got some common chives as well growing well, but there's a lovely white chive which Alan particularly loves, and that does really well. But yeah, don't just stick to the bog standard things, but I think the important thing is to pick varieties that you will use, and it may not be that you're just using them in the kitchen. It might be that maybe you're using them to create your own natural cosmetics or your own herbal treatments for yourself at home. So make sure they fit the bill, and they're going to be things that you will get use out of as well as will look good in the garden.